don't know me, my name's Julie. I'm married to Andrew. We've been part of Jubilee for nearly 15 years now. So last week Michael spoke about transition, and while he preached, God reminded me of a large part of transition within my life. Not the one you're going to think it is, nothing to do with Africa. So it's a period of about 2 years, around about 18 years ago. And through the week, God's been prompting me to get up here and share this with you. So I apologize if you know this already. Okay, so when I was about 11 weeks pregnant with my oldest, Benjamin, my husband at the time left me for another woman. And it was a very dark time, as you can imagine. I'd only been a Christian for about 2 years, and I had a decision to make. And the decision that I made was there wasn't any way I was going to get through that period without God. So I stood firm. Anyone who knows me will know that I'm just a little bit stubborn. And this wasn't actually a time of transition that I chose. It was a time of transition that was forced upon me. So I felt that it was another person who'd taken away my free choice. All of the plans that I had for my life and the life of my child, another person had taken away from me. So I worked hard. I thought with God, but I worked hard to hold on to my plans and to step out into my plans in what I thought would be the best for myself and my son. At the time, that was living down in Essex. I was a primary school teacher there, and I thought I'm going to have my baby in Chelmsford, where we lived, and I was not going to go for the repeated suggestions by my parents to move back up to Derbyshire, where I'd grown up, and have my baby there and bring him up there. Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand." And as Michael said last week, there's nothing wrong with having plans, but it is a good idea to be listening to God and asking for his answers as we step into those plans. So I finished the winter term, December 2001. At my school, I started maternity leave. Benjamin was due to be born at the end of January 2002, so I had a month to prepare. I went home for Christmas. I had my hospital appointment tour booked for the 15th of January. I went home for Christmas, and Benjamin was born 4 weeks early in Derby City Hospital. And my mum was with me at the birth, and Benjamin and I stayed with my parents until he was 5 months old, and boy, am I glad that God's plans prevailed and not mine, because I would not have got through that period of time without them. So the next part of my story concerns the fact that being away from what was my marital home for all those months, I made the decision in my plan, in my head, that there was no way that I could go back to that house. It was too painful. I didn't want to go back there to the life that I thought that I was going to have in that house, which now wasn't the life that I was having. So we moved around. Benjamin and I moved around for probably a good year. We rented for 6 months with a friend. We had 2 months in a house sitting for other friends who were doing a world tour. And then we ended up with a family from church sleeping in the bedroom of their 11-year-old son while he slept on his parents' bedroom floor, just to make room, because they loved us, to make room for us until I was ready to move forward. And my house had been on the market for about 8 months by then, and I was having this ongoing conversation with God. Lord, surely there is no way you want me to go back there, because it is too painful. You're going to sell my house. You're going to sell my house. It became very evident that that house was not going to sell. So I plucked up the courage and moved back in. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight." Okay, we'd outstayed our welcome. That was fine. May 2003, middle of May, we moved back in to our house. And that night, a tangible sense of peace descended on me. And the very first night, and within 2 weeks, Benjamin and I just felt like we'd never been away. It was our home, mine and his home. And at the end of May, so 2 weeks after we moved back in, God sold the house. And then 2 weeks after that, on June the 14th, I went on my one and only ever blind date with a guy called Andrew. And the rest, as they say, is history. So, from the very start, God was with me. God was my husband. He was Benjamin's father. And he never stepped away. In all those times while I ran, He stood right by me until I was ready to step into the plans that he had for me. At the very, very beginning, I remember when I was pregnant, it was the middle of the night, it was pitch black, it was very lonely, it was very dark, dark inside and outside. And God spoke tangibly into my head and into my heart, and the words he said to me were, "Rest now, my child, your needs are met." Your needs are met. Your needs are met. They're not going to be met. They will be met, but they're already met. My needs, your needs. And that's now and going forward. So I'm just going to leave you with Michael's last verses from last week. Now, according to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us. Abundantly more. That is the God that we serve. Thank you.